Well, hello everybody and welcome to our very live episode, our last episode of this season of the Do Good on Purpose podcast. I have a very special guest. I'm so excited. It's a rare privilege to welcome a leader whose work has fundamentally redefined how we think about spaces, where we live, age, and find community. Stefani Danes is a fellow of the American Institute of Architects, an honored reserved for those who have achieved a standard of excellence and made a significant contribution to architecture on a national level. A graduate of Princeton and Yale. She just throws it out there casually, by the way, like graduate of Princeton and Yale. Stefani has spent her career proving that architecture is not just about aesthetics, but about human energy. As a principal at Perkins Eastman and an adjunct professor at Carnegie Mellon University, she has spearheaded projects that serve our most vital needs, from the pioneering dementia care at Woodside Place to the transformative East End Cooperative Ministries. Whether she's serving as a planning commissioner for the city of Pittsburgh or leading the development of the Rachel Carson Eco Village, Stefani's work is rooted in socially responsive design. Please join me in welcoming a visionary who builds for inclusion, sustainability, and the human spirit, Stefani Danes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Paul.
So I want to start in the present before we go back and talk about your incredible past. What is the Rachel Carson Eco Village? What's all the buzz about this?
Oh, it's a lot of buzz, and that's great. Rachel Carson Eco Village is a co-housing community, meaning that it's intentional. People live in this community. It's a neighborhood of houses where people know their neighbors, and that makes all the difference. Right? So we have brought together a great group of people over 5 years of getting this project launched, and everybody has worked together to make that happen. So we have some history already as a community, and we're looking forward to moving in this summer. So we're going to be 35 units here on the campus of the Sisters of Divine Providence, our partners, and also within a few steps of La Roche University, which is exciting.
It's very exciting. Sometimes you ought to go where everybody knows your name. Feels like Cheers. No, but what makes it different than just an apartment complex that's down the street?
We all are interested in being part of a community, and that means to have that sense of belonging. We're willing to or eager to work with our neighbors. We're eager to work with our neighbors not just within the community, but more broadly as well, because it's those connections that help us all and give us all a sense of belonging. So that's the first thing. It's a community of people who own or rent their houses, and it's a community that's been built on sustainability principles.
Okay. So for example, would I, if I were living there, have chores or things like that? Or what does it mean for me to be in community with the folks that are there?
We'd put you to work right away.
I don't want to work. I just want to enjoy.
Yeah, but that is part of it. You know,
Yeah.
we do enjoy company together, whether it's picnics or the meals that we'll have together. That's certainly a big draw for doing this, because who knows their neighbors today? Right?
Yeah, really.
It's rare to have a street full of neighbors that will join and get together for the potluck or the dinner and then clean up afterwards, you know, and nobody has to say anything. It's just part of the culture of respect and listening and caring.
Do you feel like this model provides some sort of solution to what else is in the world today, right now?
I think it's a good model, and most people don't know about it. That's really the thing we're trying to work on. It's that it doesn't take a lot to make a difference. We can do that, and it can happen in many different places. In fact, it's happening all around the country. There are nearly 200 already in existence, communities like this. And while it takes a while to get it started, I think the fact that we've established a way of making decisions together, a way of working together, and a way of just enjoying time together, all of that's going to make it a wonderful place to live.
Yeah. You talk a lot, or you've quoted Charles Moore, this idea of human energy, saying that buildings should give back the energy put into them. What does that mean to you, and how is that happening here?
Yeah. Buildings that architects design are serving people for many years after the architects and the contractors and everybody's out of the picture, right? Our professions have traditionally had a short-sighted view of what we're doing. Just get it done, make the client happy, and walk away. Well, really, you have to design a building that people love in order for that building to continue to serve people, to serve its purpose. We see buildings being torn down that were built in the 1980s. That's because nobody loved them enough, right? Buildings that were built in the 1600s sometimes survive despite enormous changes in the world, but because they're repurposed, we can find new ways. Well, there's nothing more sustainable than that, right? So we want to be building architecture, building this community so that anyone who lives there or lives near it is going to love it. And that will keep it alive and will keep it a valuable place.
For years to come.
Yeah.
Not just right now. I love the idea of like loving a building.
Yeah.
It feels very Mr. Rogers, but it makes so much sense, right? Like when you talk about the places that have longevity, it's because of the humans that cared for that space.
Exactly. And we should sound more like Mr. Rogers, in my opinion.
It's a Pittsburgh guy. So the FAIA journey, talk about what that is and why that's such a big deal.
Well, being elected to the fellowship in the AIA means that you have practiced in a way that has led to innovations and recognition that your contribution has been more than just a good career. So what is required is that you can show a record of work that you've done that has gone beyond being a good architect. So working for years with folks in senior living, in disadvantaged neighborhoods, in communities where there wasn't much hope, and finding a way to bring people together to plan for the future. Those have been my interests in my career, and I prepared a presentation that you have to do, but you also have to have a sponsor who's an architect who's already been elected to fellowship, and you have to have letters from at least 10 of your clients over the years. So it does put you in touch with people you should have stayed in touch with all these years. That's one of the best things about it.
Yeah.
But it is only, right now at this point, they say it's 3% of the architects that are qualified in the country.
Incredible.
To make that.
We're listening to one of the top 3% architects in the country right now. No small feat. But you went to Yale and Princeton. So like, I love the story that you tell about your mindset of like how you got in.
Yeah,
Talk about like the like going to college for you and what that process was like and where your head was at.
Oh, sure. Well, big change point for me was going to a girls' high school. That was a wonderful experience. It was Northfield, and there was a culture that all women can be leaders. It was also founded by Dwight Lyman Moody, an evangelist, Christian in the late 1800s. So the school was founded in 1879, and it was committed to social justice. From the very beginning, it had a Native American in the first class. It had this was eight at the time. One of them was a Native American, one was an African American, and two were students who had come from another country. So there was a tremendous outreach built into the culture of that school. And I was one of the outreach people because I grew up in Wisconsin and nobody had ever heard of going away to school. So it was a big lifelong turning point for me because it was challenging. I was excited about the classes there. There were a lot of women who became college presidents and scientists, and it was a sense that you were going to do something great, and you were expected to do something great. And we still are in touch with each other. And so I applied to go to Princeton. I knew I wanted to be an architect. That was since I was in third grade. And I had lived in Princeton because my father had been working on one of the atomic projects long time ago. I knew really nothing about it. I was in first grade, and but I loved it, and I said, okay, I'll go to Princeton. And it didn't even occur to me that they didn't let women in. And nobody disabused me of that. So as it turned out, they had just decided to admit women, and I was in the first graduating class of women there.
Yeah.
So I went from an all-girls school to being in a physics class where I was the only female in the whole auditorium. So it was quite a change, but I knew I wanted architecture. I don't know, I certainly didn't know enough about it, but I've always loved the drawing and the math and all of the spatial thinking, and I found out that I really liked the people. So I joined the Community Design Center in Trenton, New Jersey. That was an outreach project of the university, and so while I was there for my 2 years in architecture, I was going volunteering there in the design center, and I knew that it's great to design a museum or something for somebody who has a lot of money, but it's way better to design for somebody for whom you can really make a difference. And I thought that somebody who's a good designer should be doing work for the people who really need it. And so when I went to Yale, I knew I wanted to work in housing and community. I did a lot of volunteer work there, and I had the privilege of listening to an architect called Charles Correa, who came and gave a lecture about doing housing in India. And so my first year out of graduate school, I had a fellowship for travel, but I used it all to live in India and work in his office, creating housing for people who were coming in, hanging onto the trains. Every day there were thousands of people migrating from the countryside into the city and ending up in really miserable squatter conditions. So we worked on a demonstration project that put in the sanitation, the water supply, and divided the properties up so that we could put just the basics of a simple structure, but that allowed people to use the land much better because they were not spreading out so much, as always happens in squatting. And then they could continue to build their house as they had jobs and were able to bring in some money. So we presented this just before I left. It was presented to the Maharashtra State Housing Authority, and I found out afterwards, Charles wrote me that they had adopted the 2 plans that I did, and so it was the difference was they were building European-style high-rises, and people were actually abandoning their unit because they couldn't bring the cow up the stairs. So they would come out and they would actually set up their own little tents outside the building, and they would abandon the concrete building. So they knew they had a problem, but they didn't have a way of solving it, and this helped them to really change the way they approached housing.
The way that you navigate space is really interesting, and I think that it's a very people-first sort of thought. There's a young man in the audience, Bryce, who's interested in urban planning, for instance. How did you get to a space of being able to ask questions around the people that are in these communities? Like, how did you become curious when everyone else isn't? They're just saying, we're going to build tall, but the community's saying, we actually want you to build wide. Like, how did you get to that space?
Well, I think part of it goes back to having a socially conscious upbringing in the school that I went to. And I was always alert to what people would think and what people would want. So to me, architecture is in service of people. And the technical problems, those are solvable. Those are not the really interesting things to do. You have to learn it, you have to be good at it. But what really makes people love it is what you can find out about what people really care about. That's what it starts with. My professor at Yale was David Lewis, who's an architect that started Urban Design Associates, the first urban design firm in the country, and it started here in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
And that's how I got to Pittsburgh. So he was committed his whole life to talking to people, and I just loved being his student, and I was his student as long as I worked for that firm. But that idea that you start to find out what people care about, even as you walk down the street in a neighborhood, you start to see what people care for and what they don't care for, right? And you can, you just learn so much when you have a chance to talk to people. That became part of the way that I approached any project, from the scale of one building to the scale of a neighborhood.
You told a story once of, as you said, talking to people is really important, but sometimes folks don't always have the words, right? And so there was a situation where you were building for people with dementia. Can you talk about that and how there's a really creative solution that you came up with? How did that happen?
Well, I was fortunate to be on the team building the first residential dementia care facility back in the 1982, 83. It was Woodside Place, it's part of the Presbyterian Senior Housing Network. And we studied facilities all around the world. I'm trying to find a way that people who have dementia could live a rewarding life being cared for in a facility, because at that time the only option was a nursing home. And so one of the things that we built into this project was a 3-year grant that allowed a team. I was the architect on the team. There was a neuropsychiatrist, there was a gerontologist, there was an anthropologist, and she was the most interesting person because she and I actually spent days and days and days out there in that facility when we built it, just to see how people lived in it. And with people who have dementia, as a fairly advanced state, it's important to observe and record. And she discovered that there were some patterns that people who were residents in that facility started to develop relationships. And that was never thought about. It was thought that people with dementia are too far removed from reality to engage with other people. But if you look carefully, there were these patterns where people would walk together, not just with their family members when they came, but with another resident. And they would walk through the facility where there were chairs, because there was an area where there were big windows and people liked to sit in those chairs and look out the windows. But there was, when people would walk past, there'd be anything from just a nod of the head to a, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
You know, and their ability to converse was limited, but they acknowledged each other. And what we learned was that nobody programmed this. This was not listed as the kind of space we need. In fact, the places where people connected with each other were more the places in between. And so that was a big lesson from that experience that I found true in all the housing work that I do, in any work that I do. For example, the community room in a typical senior housing building is a big empty room. It's programmed, but there's not enough programming to make it lively all the time. Where do people meet each other? It's the laundry. The laundry is the community room. And if you take the time to talk and watch what people do, it really changed the way we made really nice laundry rooms.
And you made wider hallway joints because you said that folks were coming and sort of gathering.
Yes, exactly.
In the sort of connecting piece of the hallway, right?
Yeah.
Your career has been in places where you were in sort of corporate boardrooms, and then you've moved into a space where you've been working in low-income communities and senior communities, often hanging out with the least of these, right? Talk about vocation and this idea of this thing that's in your gut that's driving you towards caring for people, essentially. How would you talk to someone who's kind of on the fence of like, I think I want to do this work at a high level, and I don't want to forget about these folks? And you figured out how to make that happen.
Well, I'd say, first of all, in the field I know, the first thing I would say is, yes, you can do this. You can serve people through your profession in engineering, in architecture, in a technical field. And it's a matter of taking the time sometimes to just spend some time with people during the process.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of group design, group planning processes. I worked with the town of Johnstown on a vision process that involved 500 people over a 6-month period, and has now involved thousands of people in Johnstown. It's still going 10 years later. They just had their 10th year celebration, volunteering for the community. It was just the idea that it's not about making a plan, writing a book, and going away. It's about building relationships and trust. And that's what changes that town.
Yeah.
And so, whereas they had always been fractionalized before, they didn't trust the businessmen, didn't trust the city council, didn't trust the neighborhood folks. they were now in groups where they worked together, and they built this amazing organization that continues to do good work. They have brought so much energy and dollars, of course, because funders like to see that kind of cooperation. But the main thing was that it was bottom up.
Yeah.
It wasn't about saying, okay, the mayor has this plan and we're going to build it, and it's what people really wanted for their neighborhoods and for their kids and for the town.
Yeah.
So.
The last question is, like, what would you say have been your guiding principles throughout your life and your career? Like, what are maybe the 5 things that you've believed deeply that have helped you both be successful as a leader, as an organizer, as an architect, that you could share with folks listening?
I believe that people want to do good and to do well. And that what often stops us is our own insecurities. That if we work with other people, we are bolstered together and get stronger. I believe that that there are inevitably going to be big obstacles in anybody's life or project, and we certainly have proved that true with the Eco Village. And that if you are believing in what you're doing and working steadfastly, you do get stronger as a person, as a community. You learn a lot. And I think, to me, also designing itself is a learning process, and that's what's exciting to me in my life is learning. Always, open to new thoughts and experiences from other people, and I believe that I believe very strongly in community.
Yeah.
In the power of belonging and supporting each other.
3 words that I've used to describe you just around campus is you're incredibly curious, you're incredibly driven, and you are not to be messed with. You are a fierce woman, but not like angry fierce. You just know what you want, and you know how to run a meeting to get to it, right? Like, you know how to pull people together to get to it. And I appreciate that, right? Like that, it's a different picture of a strong woman. And so, thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm sure people say the same thing about you.
They don't. I'm not fierce.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions, and you're going to, without even thinking, just sort of pop off whatever you got, okay? You ready?
Yeah.
All right. First question.
Is there a car behind door?
First question is, I want to live in the Eco Village, and is there space for me?
Yes.
I don't really have the money to live in the Eco Village. I just thought I'd ask. Second question.
We can help. We can help.
You heard it here first. I love that. No, I'm going to come, and then I'll be like, entertainment in the evening. I'll be singing show tunes or whatever. Like, you can put me to work.
Right.
What's your favorite building in the region that folks might be able to pinpoint and find?
Well, of course, the landmark is Falling Water,
Mm-hmm.
and how it is in some ways so much a part of its natural habitat.
Yeah. What's the most underrated building that you think people should see that's in the region?
The Gulf Building downtown.
Yeah. Why?
Because it's just another building you walk along on the street, but when you go inside, there's this amazing lobby and beautiful. I mean, there was such care taken. That building is going to last forever, even if Gulf's gone and whoever owned it after that and after that. Yeah.
What's a book that every non-architect should read to understand space?
Body, Memory, and Architecture.
Okay.
That's by Charles Moore and Kent Bloomer. Kent had a Pittsburgh connection as well. So he was a sculptor and an architect.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Last question, what does the next frontier of sustainable space look like?
I think it's off-site production. I think we're going to start to see that we have the capability to build better if we build inside in a factory and then reduce the overall time when building materials are exposed, build more efficiently, and build more high-performance buildings that way.
Are you talking like prefab homes? Is that, or is that not the same?
It is prefab, but it's there's a great variety. Not just the modular homes, that's one sort, but the panels that we're using at the Eco Village are specifically made to save energy, and that can happen because they're so precisely manufactured in off-site, and that you can't do that on site. It's just too hard to do that.
Stefani, it's been my absolute pleasure to spend time with you. You're a living legend, so thank you so much for sharing the stage with us today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.